So this will be my first attempt at making a bread making video. As you can see in the first photo, I have a dollop of sourdough starter. You can see it's 67 grams. I typically feed my sourdough once a month. Then you'll see I added about, I would say, 180 grams of bread flour to 180 grams of water. And you see where I put the mark on with a rubber band. And about 16 hours later, she doubled in size and starting out with a really strong starter to make our bread. So this is the first time attempting to do 3 loaves in one mix. Not sure how it's gonna, my mixer's gonna make out, but we'll see. So I'm gonna start out with 1,120 grams of water. Get this water from a natural spring not too far from my shop. I guess they call them an aquifer. So never tap water. 9. 1,050. 11. 14. 11, 18. All right. 1120. 1,120 grams of water, and it's going to be a total of 1,650 grams of flour, which will be 300 grams of dark rye flour mixed with 1,350 grams of bread flour, which I'm going to mix in a separate bowl, sift all the ingredients together, and then I will proceed to put it into the water. So I've got a separate mixing bowl. This is the flour that I use. I don't know if it's in reverse or not on that, but it's called King Arthur Sir Lancelot High Gluten Flour. It's a 14.2% protein. And I keep everything in 5-gallon buckets. Cool, dry place. So 1,350 grams of bread flour. $13.50 on the nose. And we'll mix that with 300 grams of dark rye flour. $16.50 on the nose. So, just mix this up. Sometimes, well, I don't know if it's sometimes, but some cultures choose to boil their rye flour first. I don't know if they say it makes the, breaks down the grain better, or swells up the rye, it makes for a better rye flavor, but I tried it and didn't notice much difference. So I just keep it dry like this, and I've been pretty pleased with how my bread's turned out. Okay. And now I'm going to attempt to add all the flour to the water. Check a quick temperature of my water. So the water is 60.6 degrees. The reason why I take the temperature is because once you turn the mixer on, and especially when you mix it at higher speeds, it will warm up the dough. And I try not to ever let it get above like 73 degrees because then the temperature of the dough is so warm that the dough will tend to rise faster. So, all right, so I had a little problem with my watch. It made my music come on, so I didn't want it to be a distraction. So anyway, I'm going to attempt to, actually I might fill it up first. That's what I'm going to do. This mixer is a KitchenAid Professional 6-quart. So I'm maxing it out with its capacity, that's for sure. All right. Start on slow. So while this is mixing on level 1, and I'll show some before and after pictures, but this was my starter. It's been active. I leave it in the refrigerator. I haven't fed it till yesterday morning. Probably about 3 weeks it had been in the fridge. Yesterday morning I fed it, and it was right, I had it at that level. That was in the morning. Then I fed it again that was like 7 o'clock in the morning. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where this rubber band is, I put 120 grams of water, 120 grams of flour. And then when I came in this morning, she came right to the top. I'm not sure if you could see that or not. She's really, really bubbling, and I got a very active starter here. So I'll be putting in, I'll measure it, but I think it's approximately around 300 grams, maybe a little bit more, that I'll be adding to the dough. And that will, I also have to take into consideration this as far as the hydration. So I think I did this at 69 hydration with the actual water and flour this morning, but with the starter, the water that's in this, I think it'll bring it closer to 71% hydration. So after looking at this dough, I decided I wanted to increase the hydration just a little bit. I typically do 72% hydration, but I cut it back with this one originally because I thought it'd be too much for the mixer, but it looks like it can handle it, and I want to keep the same consistency. So to get it a certain 72% hydration, I'm going to add 68 grams more of water. And I'll add it slowly. Now, as most of you probably know, the higher hydration, the more difficult it is to work with the dough. It's stickier when you go to stretch and fold, or coil folds, or whatever you decide to do. But you end up with a moister bread. I believe you get a better rise out of it in the oven. And so I started out with a low hydration when I first started making it, but now I found this is kind of the sweet spot for me, 72-73% hydration. So what I'll do is I'll let this mix. I'll increase the speed a little bit until it gets to another nice dough ball, and then I'm going to let it rest. They call it auto-lease. I'm not 100% sure that it really makes a difference, but I've been in the habit of doing it lately. So basically what I'll do is, once it's mixed up, I feel that the flour and the water have combined well. Shut it off, take the dough hook off, and I'll put saran wrap over it and let it sit for like a half hour. You can let it go up to 6 hours, I've read. And then at that point, I will add in my starter. I'll fold it in, as I'll demonstrate, and then after that gets incorporated nicely, and then I'll add 20% of salt. So I've mixed it for about 10 minutes or so. As you can see, so I keep a little spray bottle of water when I'm working with my bread, but I'm gonna, you see how it rose up the bread hook that flowed, the flour did, the dough, and I want to get this off right away and clean it because it gets welded on there. Not good. And as I mentioned, I'm going to cover this with some Saran wrap and let it sit for about a half hour or so. In the meantime, we'll have a cup of coffee. I'm going to measure out my my salt, and then we'll get back. That's that. It's 10, 14, 20. There's 30 grams. I'll go close to that. I am using fine sea salt. That's 32 grams. I'm not an expert, but I know there are different, I don't know if it's sodium amounts or salty taste, but this is the one I have found to be the one I particularly enjoy and always use. All right, see you in a bit. Okay, so it's been about 30, 40 minutes. I used my time to go fill up my 5-gallon water dispenser at that aquifer I was mentioning earlier. So let's see here. So at this point now, I'm going to take a little spray bottle, spray my hands, and I'm going to just make a hole, push down on the dough to make a spot to put my starter in. I don't know if this is even necessary, but I've always done it as I suffer from a little OCD. All right, so I made a little hole. Actually, I'm going to weigh, see exactly how much starter I'm putting in here. Tart out, so it's at 0 grams right now. Again, there's the beautiful starter. $3.60 it looks like. See what's left there. So I'll leave the rest of that. I ended up with 370 grams total, and what I'll do is I'll put 50 grams of flour, 50 grams of water, put the cover on, and then throw it in the fridge. And the next time I've left it for like up to a month and more, a little bit more. Haven't experimented much past that, but even if it forms a little bit of that blackish looking water, not a problem at all. Just stir it up and then just add more flour and water to feed the starter when you're ready to make some bread. So anyway, I'm going to just stretch and fold a little bit, kind of bury this starter in the middle. Yeah, about 67 degrees. Now I'm going to slowly start adding in my salt. Number 33 grams, and that's a 2% salt ratio for my 1,650 grams of flour. I didn't add the salt right at the beginning. Sometimes recipes, folks will put everything all together, their starter, flour, water, and their salt from the get-go. But salt inhibits, it works against the yeast. So that's why I usually add it later so that the yeast, the starter, all of that starts getting the fermentation process going. And then I add my salt later, as you see here. So as you can see, the dough is, as it's mixing, it's still stuck to the bottom of the bowl. And so what I've learned, or what I've used as a barometer when it's done, is when it's no longer stuck to the bowl and you just have a ball of dough rolling around, on the dough hook, and it will come out pretty easily out of the bowl. And from that point there is where I'll begin to start to do the stretch and folds when the bulk fermentation begins. Really starting to pull away from the bottom of the bowl. Sometimes you think it won't, you just gotta be patient. So it's almost there. And what I'll do is I'll use a little cooking spray, and when I'm ready to take it out of the bowl, I'll spray the sides so that way it slides out, falls out easily into my next container. And let's take the temperature. Yeah, we're 71, almost 72 degrees, so right where we want to be. So my dough is at 73 degrees, 73.8. So that's kind of the max I want to go. Let me get this stuff out of the way. What size this is? 15 1/4 by 11 1/4. 15 1/4 by 11 1/2 by 6 inches high. I use this to fold my dough. Oh, actually, first let me do this. All right. So before I get going with the bulk fermentation, I use a container that has marks on it, so I can see where my starting dough is at. I see most of it came out, not too bad. So as you can see, we are at, if I held that level, between 2.5 and 3 quarts, it looks like. That's what we're starting out at. So I'm gonna want to be at probably there, right about just under 5 quarts. So 5.5 to 6 would be doubled in size. It'll even keep going more than that if the temperature in the room is really warm. But I usually like to stop it at like 75%. Spray a little water in my hands, and I'll do an initial stretch and fold. Fold it over itself. Go around the, turn it a little bit. Stretch it. Pressing it back into the center. And then once I've done that a few times, I'm going to flip it over. And then this side of the dough, I'll try to continue to make it be the top the whole time. And you'll see what I mean when I do the stretch it, continue to stretch it. So we'll fold it into a little bowl, nice tight bowl here, ball. All right, so that's somewhat tight. Here's a close-up. So you'll see how it starts out, but as it rests for the 40 minutes, it's just going to kind of flatten out, and at least that's the plan. We'll see in a little bit. So here we are, 45 minutes later. And just like we mentioned, she's laid out. Let's get ready to stretch and fold. So you can YouTube whatever technique you like to use. This is, for me, I guess I would describe it as kind of a modified coil fold. Typically a coil fold, you almost lift it up from the middle and then fold it on itself, turn it, lift up in the middle, fold it, and then you know, so you get those two folds, helps build structure. but I tend to lift it from the front and just keep trying to roll it, get as much stretch and roll as I can. But let me just demonstrate. So I sprayed my hands with some water. Stretch, flip, stretch, flip, stretch, flipping it, stretch, flip it, stretch, flip it. So you can see it's starting to roll like a cinnamon roll almost, and so that's going to help it to build strength, give it structure. It'll help with the rise in the oven. It'll help with the crumb. And as we mentioned before, we do about 4 sets of these during the bulk fermentation, which is what it's doing right now. So you stretch it enough, but you don't go so far that you rip the dough. So stretch it, flip. The other opposite way. So weigh it out and see how much 3 loaves are going to weigh. So it's 3,200 grams. So let's see how much this one is. Again, this is a little underproofed, a little earlier than I would normally start shaping, but I don't want to, like I mentioned before, have it overproof. I'd rather do it like this and then let it keep fermenting in the refrigerator, even if it's an extra day or so. You could really open this up if you wanted to, and I think they call that lamination, and you could add cheese or garlic or rosemary, whatever you want to it, but I'm basically just doing it just like this so I can again just gonna press this in, kind of trap the gas in there, keep it from opening up. One side, fold it over, press it. Same thing on the other. Fold it over. And do a little crisscross action. And now we're gonna just roll it. Tuck that in, no pinch. Do the same thing on the other side. Pinch. Douse it up with some flour. Benetton, rice flour, like it could open up. This actually looks pretty good. But you can see this rose beautifully. This is what 1,000 to 1,070 grams should look like when it's ready to put in the oven in the Banneton. I typically just do a score right down the side, but today I'm gonna make a little decorative paintbrush here. Scissors. A little extra here. I'd rather not have it fold over on top of the bread while it's in the Dutch oven. I also have a cup with a couple of ice cubes. So I don't know, yeah, I guess I could film it. I'll film that too. So here's my lame. I think I pronounce it a lame, your blade. So first, I'm gonna put a little flour on here. This is only if you want to make some decorative designs. You spray a little bit of water and a little flour, and you'll see the effect it comes out with when it's done. All right. So we're gonna make a little wheat stock here. All right, and then this is gonna be a little relief cut, if you will. Preheated the oven to 500 degrees. Let's keep on that side, on that side. Typical bakery, when the ovens are equipped with steamers, they have steam injection. So adding the ice cubes into the Dutch oven with a lid on it gives it that same idea, that same principle. So after 25 minutes, we'll take the lid off, take a look at what it looks like, and then I'll cook it for another probably 15 minutes. This is a convection oven, so it cooks fast. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. See you in a few minutes. So here's the finished product. It has all the makings of the perfect sourdough loaf. Well, there's our scoring technique, giving us that little wheat stalk there. But you see the little bubbles? Those are pockets of steam. That's a good indication of good fermentation. You get those little blisters. That's the steam trying to escape. This here is called the ear. That's another indication of a well-fermented, well-risen, just a perfect loaf of sourdough. It did everything we were hoping for it to do. So, yeah. Now that's all that's left to do is slice it and eat it. But in this case, we're going to take all 3 loaves and we're going to freeze them.